The Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a directive mandating that all point-of-sale POS terminals in the country be geotagged within 60 days. This move, aimed at curbing rising fraud in Nigeria's booming agent banking and POS industry, has generated widespread reactions across the fintech space, banking sector, among everyday agents. While the CBN insists the policy will improve oversight and transparency, critics are raising concerns about its implementation, the readiness of operators, data privacy, and whether it tackles the root causes of fraud or simply adds another layer of regulation. On the program, we are asking, is this the right approach at the right time, or is it a regulatory overreach with unintended consequences? Thank you for joining us on Nigeria Today. I'm your carrier, Clinton. Now, with me in the studio for this conversation is Abubakar Ahmed Tanimu. He's a legal practitioner and also is a former banker. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight being here.
Now, before we start, Tanimu, we'll start with the basics. What exactly does geotagging mean?
Okay. For references, I want to shed light on how our normal POS work. For those that are in the know, every POS has an electronic chip, just like your SIM card or your phones. So it means that it uses all the facilities that your phone uses. So that being said, it means the activity of the POS operator can be tracked, just as the way your phones can be tracked. So if you look at it from that context, before now, all POS operators are allowed to operate anywhere where there is network. It means you can register with any of the providers. You can travel to Kaduna with your POS in Abuja, it will function. You can be in Lugbe, you come to Garki, it will function. The coverage now is determined upon the connectivity of the network. So what the CBN is saying at this moment is that they now want every POS operator to be between a 10-kilometer radius in any given location. So if it is Garki, you have to be in Garki. If you go out of Garki, it will be flagged and maybe your account will now be deactivated. So it's a kind of restriction on the usage and accessibility of POS. They now want it now to be restricted to a particular confine, 10-kilometer radius within your area of operation. So if you have a POS that is in Gariki, area 10, when the time you move to Wuse or you move to Gwarimpa, it will not function. Or if it functions, it will be flagged that you have gone out of your territorial jurisdiction of operation. It has its advantage, it has its disadvantage, but on the basis for clear understanding, it means restriction of the usage of point of sales terminals, in the sense that it will be restricted to a given geographical location, usually 10-kilometer radius. So anywhere around that side, we are within a restricted confine, just like in the balance of law. You say jurisdiction. So now POS operators now have their own jurisdiction. So if you go outside your jurisdiction, you'll be flagged and your services can be halted with other attendant consequences that the regulators will want to.
So in other words, if you are using it for a particular location, maybe you have a business here, you're using the POS for, you cannot take it to another branch.
If you are coming from Lugbe now, once it's closing time, it means if somebody now, the way it's being done now, that just, oh, Mr. Usman, you are now in Lugbe, I need some money. So if you do that, you'll be flagged because your area of operation has been confined to area 11 NTA headquarters, 10 kilometers radius.
How good is this for business, really?
For me, I think it will restrict business as it implies, in the sense that you are stopping the effective and maximum utilization of the point of sale. Point of sale is an agency banking, whereby at any point in time, you can easily access funds, you can easily do financial transaction. What most people fail to realize is that there are some remote areas that they don't even have regular banking facilities. They rely on the operation of POS operators. So if you are bringing any restriction, I think for now, I would have expected that the CBN should make it like a voluntary thing and allow the process like a test run and look at the effects. The excuses that or is readily provided is that they want to use it to curb insecurity, payment of ransom, terrorism financing, those that are perpetrating various kind of frauds, because since they will not be able to go to the banks to make withdrawal, it's easier for them to always use point of sale operators. So what the government seek to achieve is to now say, okay, just like the way you can go to a bank and a specific bank to make transaction, now they want to like give the agency banking a face of an identity. If you are in Garki and you have 10 POS operators, over time, those 10 POS operators can be able to give some information on the KYC of knowing their customers. They know that Mrs. Ukeria from their interface, she's readily working in NTA. You know, tracking, some tracking, if they are tracking, those are one thing by the law. It's not every device that will take you to the exactitude of your room or whatever. Some, they have to do with human intelligence. So, for example, if you are now looking for me in area 11, by the time they use my call or they use a particular transaction, if you ask those 10 POS operators within a given radius, they say, I know, we know him, Barista is this, and they'll be able to identify me. So it's for security and intelligence consideration, and its broader effect is to curb insecurity, terrorism, kidnapping, receipt of ransom. That will mitigate it in a way according to the intelligence and report they might have.
Knowing that we have some high-tech persons that unfortunately have resorted to fraudulent activities, how much do you think this will help in curbing these fraud, really, insecurity, just like you just mentioned?
For a start, the good thing is that apart from ordinarily, these are the activities that the bank should be performing. If you have license or if you have given any operator your machine, you are equally duty bound to have his full documentation, KYC. You know about him. You must have visited his the addresses he has given, conduct maybe 1 or 2 mystery shopping. But we all know that most of the banks, they are doing armchair banking. They don't have the time, the luxury, and the personnel to even do those basic requirements. So as we normally have, the government is always in a way looking for a way to shift the burden of what banks should be doing, financial institutions should be doing. They want to now push it on the operators, because it means that in every location that they should be housed, somebody will take the responsibility of equally registering them, collecting and managing their affairs. All points to how to curb insecurity. We will now have the opportunity of the operators now knowing their customers, because if you are restricted to, let's say, area 11 NTA headquarters, the people around that will normally transact, apart from the working customers that will come in maybe because they have a business in NTA, for those residents in that area, majority of whom you get to know, then if it is a working customer that is coming and he wants to make large chunk transaction, the suspicion will now set in. You want to ask 1 or 2 questions, and in any case, it's for security agencies to be able to use the intelligence of the fact that you are restricted in a given location. Because what we have discovered over time is that a lot of fraud cases, by the time they are trying to make arrests and you are looking for the POS operators, you discover that they are in completely different environment. And most people, it's convenient for them. If I know I'm perpetrating fraud or maybe I'm taking ransom in a particular environment for my own, for me to evade justice and investigation, I would rather go to somewhere very far, make withdrawals there and come back. So if you ask the POS person, he doesn't know anything about the person that receives. They only know who sent in the money, and maybe they want to use other means, because we all know that in Nigeria, we don't really follow. So it's a very elaborate concept that is not only, for me, I believe, it's not only about restricting them to a given area.
I was about coming to that. Now, technologically, sure. Are we really ready for this?
For me, I don't think we are ready, and that's why I said I believe what I would have assumed the central bank, what they ought to have done is to test run the operation of this process. Maybe they restrict it to Abuja, Lagos, and maybe Kaduna or Port Harcourt, and see the effectiveness on. They will now know if it's actually effective in curbing criminality and all the excuses in terms of operationality, how effective it is. But you see, we keep on implementing policy that are not well thought out. They are not the implementation, just like the removal of subsidy, just like the cashless policy is better, just like the cashless policy. By the time sometimes when you implement policies, you only get to know the negative effect when the implementation is setting. Sometimes they are not even prepared. Like now, they just gave a directive. I was thinking a complete and walk-through operational procedure will be made available so that even the general public will now know that, okay, this is how it is done.
We have enough sensitization.
Okay. They should be on this program, educating Nigerians. Okay, because we know that a lot of people, usually when you are compelled now, most people have shifted from banking to the use of POS. So we need all the sensitization, all the education, and then the test run is quite very important. You need to test run the effectiveness, the efficacy of such kind of program, because it affects a large number of Nigerians, the unbanked, the banked, and then now it's now a pillar in the financial system. So it's not something that you just rush. The moment you rush in, and when the attendant problem come in, then you revert back. Well, I believe that they should have test run it.
And also for the fact that some of these, POS operators are not really that educated.
Yeah, majority are not.
When you say geotagging, some of them don't really understand what you're talking about.
And if you look at it in terms of business practicability, for some it's not really practicable for them, because let's assume now somebody coming from Lugbe, he does his business till night. If he's here in town, once it's closing time, he's going back to somewhere in Lugbe. Are they saying that he needs to now acquire another POS machine that will be registered in Lugbe and another one will be registered in? So you now ask, what is the essence of the restrictions? It should be something of value, something to create effectiveness, something to reduce the cumbersome nature that is usually associated with the financial transaction. Before now, we don't use POS. We know that there was a gap, and they came in to fill in that gap. So why restrict those gaps?
So are you saying this will defeat the essence of the POS?
For me, to limit their operational functionality, they will not be able to function to the optimal. The typical example is that if you are being geo-zoned in Gariki, it means you cannot go to Gwarimpa, you cannot go to Lugbe. And we all know majority of the small-scale business operators within towns, most of them are coming from outside.
Some of them are mobile POS operators. Like sometimes you go to the market, people that live in Lugbe, you see them at maybe Gosa Market.
And now they're not telling them 10-kilometer radius. I don't know how far 10 kilometer is, but I don't think it's far enough for a business operator that wants to move around freely, that wants to engage in business till maybe 12 late in the night, and he doesn't want that limitation. And if you say if it's for knowing your customers, I think the responsibility should be shifted to the banks. The banks are benefiting humongously on POS operation. It's not free. They are taking a percentage. So that percentage should be part of the cost of what the bank is, the income that they are generating. They should be able to render. So they should do the know your customer, the services on behalf or in conjunction with the POS operators.
Thank you very much. Tanimu, we are going to take a short break now. The conversation will continue after the break. Don't go away.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today. We're looking at geotagging and the curbing of POS fraud. And I have a gentleman here in the studio with me for this conversation. Tanimu. Now, Tanimu, you said so much about will I say the disadvantages? But tell us, what of the advantages of this? Because actually, there were some reasons. They've seen some lapses here and there, why this directive was given. So what are some of the benefits?
Basically, it's about security. Okay. For now, a lot of security concern. Receipt of ransom payments, terrorism financing, and the rest. And at times, fraudulent activities, most fraudulent activities of the bank. So the safest way for them, because if, for example, your account is flagged, by the time you try to make any transaction in any bank, the bank can easily detain you and get security personnel to get you arrested. But if they are using point of sale terminals, it's very difficult. A single person can walk around various POS and keep taking out fraudulent transfer. But I said, it's not about the POS operator. You see, in banking, anyway there's a debit, there must be a credit, there's a financial trade. The regulator should focus more on that. That means putting the banks on their toes to ensure that as we are giving POS, there's a commensurate accounting module in the various banks that you can easily check, and you can get your KYC, so you know who are your operator. Anytime an account is flagged or any information is required about a specific transaction, you that gave the POS should have been in part of your KYC, you should have collected documentation, you should have provided a kind of even training and said, okay, if you notice any suspicious transaction, please trigger it by sending the bank that, okay, you are suspecting something is not adding up. You can limit issue of transfers, because that's another angle. People will now say, please transfer money into, then you ask, why is it? Or you peg, there's a way. For me, as I said, it should be that an all-inculcating thing, all the stakeholders, the operators, users, the regulators, the various commercial banks, they should all have like a stakeholder meeting, a stakeholder sensitization, so that the pros and cons. But for security, it's undeniable. That will really help. It will now help the POS operators to provide security agencies, the banks, with relevant information about the people that they transact. But as I said, if you look at it in a holistic manner, there's no restriction. If I move to Lugbe today, I'm residing in Area 11, for example, the POS operator will still attend to me because I'm just giving him card or I'm using my phone to make transfer. So you see, the KYC now will not really affect me that is coming, because there's no way that they said they should restrict transaction. The only thing is that it will create a collaboration, it will create familiarity. A POS operator stationed permanently in NTA will know all the NTA staff. We know when somebody that is not within the vicinity, a visitor, so to say, he will know that this person is coming here for the very first time. Still, he will be able to provide relevant information to security agency, but we need to go beyond that. If we are talking about terrorism financing, we are talking about transaction details, every transaction can be easily traced. I am telling you that most of the issue of
so fraud, in other words, just like you said, you rightly said, you said every transaction can easily be traced. You don't even need much of these geotargeting that much for for us to achieve, to curb
because I said
fraud.
They are shifting the burden now from the bank. The regulators are shifting it from the bank to the operators.
So you are saying that the CBN is giving the banks opportunity to be lazy? Or what?
Absolutely. They are encouraging our banks to remain armchair bankers, where things that are ordinarily responsibility of the bank, because the bank is making profit, and for every profit you make, there should be a commensurate service that you are rendering, and that service should not be about sensitizing your operators. They are representing you. They are agents of the bank. It's an extension of the bank that has been taken inward into the rural community, outside the four walls of the banking. It's like an ATM machine being operated by human being. Anything, the only thing is that you cannot, even in the ATM machine, you can transfer to your account and transfer to any. So it's like an extension of an ATM machine that is easily movable. But now they want to now restrict it to a given geographical entity, 10-kilometer radius. Of what value will it add? Only time will tell. But I thought, as I said earlier, they should have a test run, maybe 3 states, let it operate for about 6 months and weigh the pros and cons. If it's effective in curbing all these fears and challenges, then they can now make it a national outreach approach that every state should comply with it. Okay,
let's just look at the deadline has been given actually for 60 days, which is about 2 months, by October 20, that any failure to meet the requirements, you'll be automatically deactivated. Now, let's talk about implementation. We've seen oftentimes when certain policy statements have been made, you see the banks wriggling their ways out of it. What do you think about implementation?
It will pose a serious challenge to banks. You see, most of these policies are technologically driven. You have a software that manages the operation of all banks. And some of this software, the issue of geotagging is not part of it. So the software providers and the IT unit of the various financial institutions will have to come up with ways and means to be able to implement that policy. They have to have a script that's written, added to the software, deploy it, look at the effectiveness of the operation, but the challenges will be there. For some,
will it also affect the business of the banks?
Absolutely, because it's now issue of additional cost to them. The software provider never anticipated this. Very few have it in their program. For some, it's a new script that will be written, and it should be.
Somehow, will it also affect the customers? Because I know after this, somehow they also want to recoup.
Absolutely, and already it will affect the effectiveness of business, because now you are restricting them, and for them to be able to make more profit or sustain it. Somebody that has a limited time frame that he can only operate in NTA, for example, he will have to transfer the cost to the customers, the cost of registration, how effective it is.
Now, Tanimu, tell us in your final thoughts about this whole thing. Beyond the geotagging, what complementary techs do you think, technology do you think, can strengthen Nigeria's fight against fraud, insecurity, and all of that?
Most of the technological innovation are driven by humans. You need to have human intervention. So we need to reduce the human intervention in all the operationality, put in the banking sector, in the private sector. By the time a human being would do naturally, computer and the rest is garbage in, garbage out. So let's reduce human intervention in our processes.
Thank you very much, Abubakar Ahmed Tanimu, a legal practitioner and a former banker. Thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being part of the program. I'm Eucharia Clinton. Goodbye.